This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil loading operations have been suspended at the United Arab Emirates port of Fujairah, two sources told Reuters on Monday, after a drone attack sparked a fire in the Emirates Petroleum Industrial Zone. Fujairah, located on the Gulf of Oman just outside the Strait of Hormuz, is typically a critical exit point for about 1 million barrels per day of the UAE's Murban crude, a volume equivalent to roughly 1% of global demand. Civil defense teams are currently working to control the blaze, the Fujairah government media office said in a statement, adding that no casualties have been reported. It made no comment on oil loadings.
More than 400 million barrels of oil from International Energy Agency emergency reserves will begin flowing soon, the agency said in its most detailed account of the rollout of the plan to combat a spike in crude prices since the start of the Iran war. Stocks from Asia and Oceania countries will be available immediately and stocks from Europe and the Americas will be available at the end of March, the agency said on Sunday, 4 days after the agreement was announced. Governments have committed to make available 271.7 million barrels of oil from government stocks, 116.6 million barrels from obligated industry stocks and 23.6 million barrels from other sources, the statement said.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
European Union energy ministers will meet to weigh up options to curb energy costs on Monday, as officials draft emergency plans to temper the impact of surging oil and gas prices triggered by the Iran war. The European Commission is drafting emergency measures to shield consumers from rising energy bills, examining state support for industries, cuts to national taxes, and using an upcoming revision of the EU carbon market to ease CO2 permit supply, according to EU officials familiar with the discussions. Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said Brussels was also considering capping gas prices.
Israel said on Monday it has detailed plans for a further 3 weeks of war as its military pounded sites across Iran overnight, while Iranian drone attacks temporarily shut Dubai airport and hit a key oil facility in the United Arab Emirates. The U.S.-Israeli war on Iran is now entering its third week, with no clear end in sight, shutting down the key Strait of Hormuz through which 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas flow, pushing up oil prices and raising fears of a renewed spike in global inflation. U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday called for a coalition of nations to help reopen the vital shipping route and warned that the NATO alliance faces a very bad future if its members fail to come to Washington's aid. Next, we have the top news in metal market. Industrial metal prices came under pressure on Monday as surging oil prices due to the conflict in the Middle East fueled fears about inflation and global growth prospects, traders said. Benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange was down 0.1% at $12,765 a metric ton at 10:55 GMT. Investors see copper as a gauge of economic health due to its use in the power and construction industries. Oil prices have jumped more than 40% as the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran continued to disrupt oil production and shipping in the Middle East.
China's crude steel output in the first 2 months of 2026 slid 3.6% from the same period in the prior year, official data showed on Monday, curbed by falling steel margins and exports. The world's largest steel producer manufactured 160.34 million metric tons of crude steel between January and February, the National Bureau of Statistics said. An average of 39% of Chinese steelmakers were operating at a profit in the first 2 months, a drastic fall from 21.6% over the same period the year before, according to Reuters calculations based on data from consultancy MySteel.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Malaysian palm oil futures climbed for a fourth consecutive session on Monday, as stronger Dalian palm oil and strength in crude oil prices supported the market. The benchmark palm oil contract for June delivery on the Bursa Malaysia Derivatives Exchange gained 82 ringgit, or 1.79%, to 4,654 ringgit, $1,184.83, a metric ton at the close, its highest in over a year. Crude palm oil futures were buoyed by strong gains in Dalian palm olane, which during the morning Asian session traded at its highest level since June 2022, a Kuala Lumpur-based trader said.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.